That's what
Together on things like free trade, food security, health, tourism, homeland security, and labor. Senator Will Castro was instrumental in coordinating the One Marianas Summit and the signing of the MOU between the two governments.
Ultimately, the Memorandum of Understanding between Guam and the CNMI is a policy framework from which we're able to have discussions between both jurisdictions about issues of mutual concern and benefit. And so the Calvo administration is hosting today's One Marianas Summit. The idea behind this summit is to have the administration determine or establish a working agenda of what it believes to be the top priorities within, let's say, 6 major topic areas. So
during this One Marianas Summit, they hope to come up with the top 3 priorities of the 6 major topic areas. They will then bring these priorities to another meeting to be held in the CNMI from January 31st to February 2nd. Personally, Castro believes that Guam and the CNMI can improve food security by increasing the sale and trade of produce between the islands. If a disaster or war, for example, were to cut off the shipping lanes, Guam and the CNMI could face a food shortage.
Could we rely on our Pacific Island neighbors, our brethren to the north, and vice versa, them to look to us to provide certain types of products? For example, the sweet potato, the kamuti, and for Guam, maybe the sweet corn that we always see on the side of the road. Could we, in fact, embrace and ramp up, scale up the production of those 2 items from each jurisdiction and provide the right economic incentive and policy framework so that both industries could thrive?
CNMI Office of the Governor Press Secretary Kevin Bautista says that Guam and the CNMI could potentially work together on tourism.
So we have similar market shares right now between Guam and the CNMI. Right now, we were just talking about the possibility of some joint packaging, which has been done in the past, and through the close collaboration between our Marianas Visitors Authority and the Guam Visitors Bureau, there have been some positive strides made in that end. And I think
Bautista says they want to formalize this process of joint tourism packages.
The idea behind the summit is to allow the 2 island governments to speak with a collective voice on local, regional, and national issues and develop policy solutions to mutually benefit both jurisdictions.
was former news anchor Clint Rigel, and he's retired from serving as senator for this coming election. And Congressman Congressman May, he's also Senator Rigel is obviously took descent, FSM descent. So awesome that we are truly representing the demographics that we are privileged to serve amongst us. And speaking of which, obviously, this is great that, you know, the digital footprint has become perhaps a source of education. No, what do you call this? Bank for many of us. For some of us who went to college a few years back, like 20 years ago. Yeah. There was no gulu gulu gale. There was no internet. There's no really none of these social media platforms. We had to go and read the books in the libraries. I remember going to 4 different libraries at my university in the middle of the snow, reading every page. And then every Saturday, no, Sunday there, I have 1 minute to call my mom and dad and my siblings. I was the eldest of 7. And it was $15 or $20 a minute for that 1 minute phone call. So it was special for many of us. It was the sign of the times, and that $15 was every weekend. There was no FaceTime, nothing. Yeah, so no cell phones for that matter. Now, my goodness, what's that? FaceTime, iTime, My Time. I'm thinking of My Tai, but you know, that's besides the point. Really, WhatsApp. Wow, it's amazing. Technology has truly transformed our modern society, our modern living. As they're finding the video, I remembered in coming over, actually getting ready this morning, my late wife, in raising our 3 young sons at the time, had set the parameters. She was a former teacher, by the way. And it was incumbent that when we come together for debriefing in the weekends, when they come back to school, from school, and for dinner, there's a set drawer space where we drop all our technical gadgets in there. Because when it comes to quality time, it's quality time. And I think the message for us today is that we must leverage the the value of technology and digital opportunity presented before us, but hopefully not at the expense of disconnecting, our back to basics, human elements of that tight-knit system of quality time and self-care amongst our loved ones. So, constant reminder for all of us. Almost. And yes, I was sharing earlier that my IG account was hacked. I was in Palm Beach, Florida, trying to climb up the coconut tree. It's amazing. Children of the corn, people, gosh, my friends, I couldn't believe there's Tronconizuk in Florida. And they're all falling down. And I'm like, why aren't you guys, this is our source of living back home. And so I was there when they hacked my phone, my IG account, and offering Bitcoins. And thank goodness my friends said, no, that's not the John we know. So they're well trained. My friends got my back. And after 2 weeks, I finally got it back. So it's bittersweet. Darrow, any stories, Darrow, with IT? You guys are so blessed. You guys have, you just talked to, what's her name? Alicia or Felicia, what's her name? On the phone? When you voicemail, what's the number of Loco on Taco? Ladies and gentlemen, I can now give the floor to our chief, former senator, and of course now chief of the staff of the governor, Mr. Will Castro, to give us some a context for the afternoon session as well.
Well, thank you. So in the interest of helping you sleep faster, I wanted to provide some context. I talked to you a little bit about the Marianas Working Group years ago. It's kind of a hard concept for a lot of people to grasp. if you don't see it, I was talking to my former colleagues over there, Bob Kelly, former CIO or CTO to Governor Gutierrez, and of course we have Darrell Taggarty. So I asked him if I took a moment, since we have till 1 o'clock, to talk about the Marianas Working Group, would that help you understand? He said, perhaps. And so can we go to the next slide? We're going to kind of go through this. This is a presentation I prepared years ago when I was working as a senator with the CNMI groups in terms of Homeland Security. Next slide. What I'm hoping to gain, next slide please, from this discussion is to share an example, and then hopefully at the end 2 more examples like 4 years later of how this work kind of comes to life. Next slide. And we saw the pictures. Next slide. Pictures are great. Go ahead and go forth. Next one. So it happened in 2017, as I mentioned. The 2 governors wanted to sit down and say, hey, what's going on in Guam and the CNMI that we can work on together? That's really the gist. Issues of mutual concern and benefit. Next slide. And so I don't know if you heard Governor Torres' opening statement. He basically said, we are one. You're going to see in this slide, this has been an ongoing discussion among ourselves that we are one great Chamorro nation, a lot in common, but we are artificially geopolitically separated with 2 separate forms of government as a product of history over time. And I don't want to get into the entire history, but that's our reality. Next. So the 2 governors agreed to sit down and sign a non-legally binding agreement, but it was the agreement and the symbolism itself that was really had greater impact and of greater importance. The idea was to take these 2 collective voices and take it to Washington, or take it to our colleagues who are sovereign nation states to be able to work with us on these issues. Hopefully some folks from the Fed family can see just how this kind of translates. Next. Next. So when we got together, like 150 people, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, we organized ourselves into 7 different working groups to address some of these issues here. From the Fusion Center, which is a very explicit example, I'll show you how this like comes to life, to the buildup and to restrictions in trade. Next slide, please. I've got about 7 minutes, so can we just keep a time check on this, Joe, so that I don't go over? And then Selena's going to send Jackie the Calamansi family video. Okay, great. Next. So in this case, this particular presentation, which was given like 3-4 years ago, was about Homeland Security. Those are the 7 working groups. And so some of you may say, well, where's the issue of like culture and language and indigeneity? And it wasn't left out. As a matter of fact, we were deliberate in saying it's in every one of these, whether it's food security in terms of traditional practice, fishing practice and farming practices, or how we treat each other as a family in the classroom. So these cultural sensitivities are incorporated. Next. So this was a specific discussion to the Fusion Center. So Guam has the Marianas Regional Fusion Center, and we have a node here. We have a Fusion Center node with the governor's office. Next. 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 This is oh, by the way, for those who forgive the history lesson here, I'm actually a social studies teacher, turn bureaucrat, turn politician, turn bureaucrat again. This is a picture of the region. Next. That would be us in the Marianas Archipelago. Next. That's a close-up. One more. And there, that's our reality. Like, that's Guam and the CNMI. And for those who don't know, especially our visiting dignitaries, we were one great Chamorro nation for thousands of years. Like, even a lot of foundational engineering precepts about sailing and navigation were derived from this great Chamorro nation. And then history took over, right? The Spanish, I mean, I can go on, Japanese, the Germans, American Spanish, it just goes on. And that's what happened. And so we were separated. And it may be a tongue-in-cheek joke, but every time my friends from the South come over, I say, welcome to the North, or the Northerners from NMI come over and say, welcome to the Southern Marianas. And they laugh. Because if you're from the NMI, that makes me the Southern Marianas. And so I just think it's something we need to revisit. I'm not asking for you to talk about independence. I'm talking about reintegration on some levels. Next. And that's what the whole of the Marianas should look like. Next. The bigger picture is we work with our regional neighbors. I had a discussion with American Samoa governor at the time, and we talked about consolidating a procurement strategy that would take into consideration solid waste to like export
recyclable material or metals to larger countries like China if we kind of pull our resources together. Next. Homeland Security, next. Next. Pretty pictures, that's great. Next. Next. As elected officials, next. Okay, so we start to talk brass tacks. We said, what is going on in Guam now with your fusion center under Homeland Security, and what's going on in the CNMI? So this is kind of what that table looked like. We have a lot of commonalities. Everybody had this in common. Next. Then we said, whoa, there's a difference here. The CNMI, even though it's a younger government, it was much more mature in setting into motion its Homeland Security operations. Whereas the older government, the government of Guam, only established Homeland Security as a political animal, as a creature of an executive order, which means it can be erased. It's temporary, unlike a public law. And then, so we said, how can we fix this? Oh, and by the way, the younger government has it in statute, which is a permanent fixture of law, and the older government only executive order, but you don't have a fusion center. Like, I don't know anybody from Homeland here. I think we have to establish a fusion center. CIO, where you at, Cliff? I'll put you on the spot. Are you aware if we have a quote-unquote fusion center with the government and the CNMI? Okay, so we're not aware. I think we have one kind of in theory. But unless it's memorialized in writing, it really doesn't exist. So we need to redress that. As a matter of fact, it's 2022, and this was a 2017-2019 discussion. And then Guam had a fusion center by virtue of the same executive order. Next. So what do we need to do? We needed to establish the Homeland Security animal as a matter of public record, as a bill, and then a law. And that happened. Next. The bottom line is that Bill 6235 was passed. It became a law. I think it was Public Law 133-whatever. And so Guam now has a permanent fusion center, Marianas Fusion Center. But thanks to the input of those at Homeland, we were able to, at a very early phase in our laws, tie in this concept of what was coming out that was new, like critical infrastructure and cybersecurity. So there is actually in the books a specific provision for that. Is there another slide? Next. And so after that, we took this case study to the Customs Regional Oceanic Conference, and that was actually here in the CNMI on Saipan, and presented how you can come together as a jurisdiction with another jurisdiction. And in this case, I'm happy my friend, Representative May, is here to see how we can collaborate, notwithstanding the fact that they're a country and we're a Commonwealth and Guam's a territory. Are there opportunities to collaborate, to share resources? That's the challenge. And so that's really why we're here today, to see how we can collaborate on issues of, I guess in this case, telecommunications, emergency communications, and cybersecurity. Next. Okay, so that's one example. I have 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Fast forward from 2017 and this concept that Governor Torres and Governor Calvo set into motion about food security. Do you know, like, just this year, Governor Torres earmarked I'll say 100 million. That's like bigger than the economy, bigger than the local budget. He made a verbal commitment to set aside $1 million for fishers, farmers, and ranchers. Like, how about putting your money where your mouth is? Forgive the loose talk. But the point is, we went from concept in 2017 to reality. And it's a reality because I'm administering this with the Bank of Saipan and the Secretary of Finance. Like, this is beyond political rhetoric. Governor Torres acted on a vision he had 4 to 6 years ago. And I want to close with this one video about a family that evidences this. This is real. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. None of this was scripted. This is just like real life happening in motion. And many of you have other ideas on how to do this with our partners. Sam, I take it from the top. Sound, it's like impactful. That pause, and then let's hit that. Yeah. Test. That would be Rhoda. Good thing they're doing it, man, because I'm like high tech. That's high-tech equipment. I'm low-tech operator. Let's give it a sec. Please bear with us. Again, we didn't rehearse this. I just wanted to share this with you because it didn't dawn on me that it would be important to connect the dots. Like, this is not like an exercise in philosophy, right? This is not theory. This is not pomp and circumstance. This is like brass tacks policy meets operations and the real world. Okay, let's try this again with sound. Hey, Mr. Speaker, can I get my 60 seconds back before you take me off the mic? Video volume's down, maybe? There you go.
These fruits can.
Here we go. All right. Lights, camera, and action on the island of Rhoda. It's like 2.5 weeks
These
ago.
fruits can bear all year round.
Of all the lemons, man, Calamansi has the most seed, but yet the most juice. It's crazy.
If you want something, just work hard for it. I don't know, like with my parents, I've just seen how hard they work.
This is labor of love, no?
First of all, I'd like to thank the governor for the boost, the opportunity for this grant.
Man, can I get a round of applause? Isn't that just so touching?
Brought to you by the Office of the Governor.
And the point behind the video is that things happen when you collaborate. That family, they have real jobs. Husband and wife, they work every day 8 to 5. But when they make time in the evenings, late afternoons, on that case, it was a Saturday, to handpick that with their kids. And Payless is standing by to buy the 5 boxes before they even seal them. That's food sovereignty. That's creating jobs for the economy. And they applied for a boost grant. And Governor Torres, I'll tell you for the record because it's public information, is going to grant them in upwards of $100,000 to buy equipment that could lift them up to the tree. Now, they're not going to replace a human hand, but they're going to buy a lift. So they don't have to do the ladder. But there's so much more to it than that. But the point is, the Marianas Working Group was founded to do exactly that. Bridge the gap between what we think we can do theoretically through this theoretical policy construct and make it real, so that the next time we come here in March, Mr. Beck, that we have a functional system that helps improve the quality of life and protect citizens of the Marianas and hopefully of FSM and everywhere else. I don't know what that looks like, but hopefully today we get that much closer to saying we're going to get there. Whatever there is, we're going to get there. So thank you on behalf of the governor's office and all of you for participating. Thank you for acting on our dreams. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation and that wonderful and touching video, Mr. Will Castro. We are now going to be moving on to our next part of our event, which is in the topic of emergency communications, that will be presented by Mr. Frank Lujan Jr., who is one of our panelists for this event. So why don't we all welcome Mr. Frank Lujan Jr.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me all right? My name is Frank Lujan. I'm actually the Chief Technology Officer, and I got to tell you, I'm really excited actually to be here, but I'm not too excited about presenting after lunch. So I hope I don't bore too many people to sleep. If anything, I have about 40 slides that I will be going through in the next, 15, 20 minutes, and I'll be going through them pretty quickly. But it's these slides really kind of speak to implementing some of the things that we've been talking about all morning: cybersecurity, broadband, and then we're gonna morph or segue into also the emergency communications piece when my colleagues, both Paul Rolinski and Mr. Kim, will kind of tie this all up on the, I guess, the NG 911 side. So you're going to hear me say next probably 42 times, so you can go to the next slide. So this is the agenda. I'll touch on all of these. You can go to the next. And we'll start with just the emergency communications landscape on Guam. Next slide. I am also the Guam SWIC. The SWIC actually stands for Statewide Interoperability Coordinator. And that makes me also a member of the National Council. So I'm a member of the National Council for Region 9 on the federal side. So that helps in terms of networking with all the other states on what they're doing with communications and networking. We'll touch also, I'll talk a little bit about LMR, but my colleagues will go deeper into that. With respect to LMR, the most I can say right now that in terms of the progress we made is that for years we've been struggling to actually properly procure and upgrade our current LMR systems. And I'm pleased to announce that this year we've been able to at least get through the process of awarding the consulting piece that will help us develop the RFP and the process of actually going through the procurement for the newer LMR system. Today's LMR system is, I believe it's probably over 25, almost 30 years old, and it's in dire need of a major upgrade. And you'll hear a little bit more about that from my colleagues. Additionally, the next bullet talks about FirstNet. Again, FirstNet, like the CNMI, is also on Guam. We're still working through, different issues with coverage throughout the island, but for the most part, there is a process now where you can get the FirstNet phones, and that's still another process that's going to mature out. FirstNet is actually a autonomous agency under the Department of Commerce that was put together actually to the best way to describe it is to create this public-private partnership between the government and another private company to put together and launch broadband nationwide for public safety. And when I'm talking about nationwide, that includes all 50 states as well as the territories. So that's one of the main reasons FirstNet has come out here in the islands. A little bit more about FirstNet includes the partnership that they have is actually with a company called AT&T, and on Guam, AT&T has Guam and the Marianas, the CNMI. Guam has or AT&T has partnered with Docomo Pacific to provide the build out and the infrastructure for the FirstNet piece. And then lastly, E911 or E911 transition to NG 911. Again, my colleagues will talk a little bit more about that, but I'll talk about just a few things about that. I'm a member of the NG 911 working group under Region 9 for the National Council, and one of the benefits of being with that working group is just to kind of gauge how far Guam and the CNMI are away from what the rest of the states are doing in terms of NG 911. And to my surprise, one of my discoveries is that we're not that far off. Everybody's still trying to figure out what their various jurisdictions are going to be implementing. And fortunately, we're a lot farther along where we'll be going live soon with the NG911 implementation. Next slide, please. Okay, as a member of the working group, the NG911 working group, we push out a lot of different products. So I thought one of the significant products that we just recently pushed out this month were things related to cybersecurity. As you know, because you're making that transition to digital, there's going to be a lot of other vulnerabilities within the system, especially on the NG911 side. So this diagram kind of speaks to that. Next slide, please. So each one of these red areas kind of speak to the different vectors and different attack surfaces that come out on the 911 side of the process. Next slide. I won't go too much into each one of these. Next slide, please. Again, these are all just the different vectors, and as you could see, moving to something to a product that actually is more digital and more broadband related, it opens up all kinds of opportunities for attacks. Next slide. Okay, this is part of the product that we produced, and this is a slide that just speaks to the resources that a PSAP that is implementing NG911 can actually go to do a cyber risk assessment, as well as next slide, please. Different resources to actually assess your vulnerabilities and putting a plan together. Next slide. So, I want to talk just briefly on the cybersecurity landscape and our current posture for within the government of Guam. Next slide. We are actually, our cybersecurity partners include CISA, MSISAC, as well as the Center for Internet Security and the FBI. So our office actually works in conjunction whenever we see any threats or they see any threats. We're all working together. The other partners that aren't really listed on this include our internal partners, which as the Chief of Staff alluded to, the Marianas Fusion Center is part of that, as well as Guam Homeland Security. Next slide. Okay, internally within our network, we have, within the government of Guam, the Office of Technology is responsible for all the line agencies within the government of Guam. And so these are different components that are part of our cyber landscape, which includes our firewalls. In 2016, we implemented the Albert sensors that are provided by MSISAC. I also receive a weekly report from DHS and CISA that gives us a snapshot or a report card of what our vulnerabilities are within our network. And then lastly, at the endpoints, we have a product that uses AI to actually look at potential threats that are at the desktop or the endpoint level within our network. Next slide. So this is a little example of our, a little diagram of our network and how we're put together. But basically, in this particular network, we actually go to 30 major locations throughout the island, which house different network components that are actually part of how the agencies deliver their services to the citizens. Next slide. Albert sensors. This is a big thing for us. The sensors in itself The Albert sensors actually are named after Albert Einstein. It uses a special algorithm to actually go out and detect potential threats and vulnerabilities within the system. And one story I'd like to share is that when we first implemented this system, this particular system, we actually were able, we had about, I'd say an estimate of about 100 tickets that actually went out, the sensors actually went out, found all these different holes we had in our network. So we quickly deployed our techs out there, found where the holes are via their IP addresses, and went through the process of basically sterilizing each one of the endpoints until we got to today where we actually barely have any of these tickets. The sensors are still working well. We recently, when we implemented this in 2016, these sensors are behind our firewall, scanning the internet and the endpoints, and they were running at a speed of about 1 gig. Within this last month, we've been working with MSISAC to actually, we are one of the few territories that have upgraded to the 10 gig framework just because of the demand that we have on our network. Basically on this slide, the last part, I want to talk a little bit about the 24/7 Security Operations Center. When I first came on board 7 years ago, we had nothing that actually monitored any of our systems except for our firewall. So the 24/7 Security Operations Center with these sensors now are a big help for all of us in just trying to manage our network and assure that there isn't any penetrations that we're aware of. The tickets are issued in 3 different levels: critical, informational, and advisory. We have, I can recall probably the last critical ticket we had was about a year ago. But each one of these levels gives this information that actually comes from it, MSISAC, and it provides us to take action. Next slide. And under the MSISAC product itself, they operate in different alert levels. So on the website, this is actually a diagram of what was on their website. And as you can see, there's the United States. They come in different colors, so we can actually see which regions have, potential problems. And on the lower left corner, you can see Guam and the CNMI kind of depicted there. They're in blue. I believe there's like 4 different colors, right? And of course, the blue is guarded. If it's red, then we're pretty much in trouble. Overall, I have not seen anything go red. I've seen it go orange once at one time, but I apologize. Initially, I thought I was going to go in the morning so you can get a little bit more of branded to kind of supplement this, but for the most part, MSISAC actually provides us a lot of good information for us to help manage our network. Next slide. This is something you can find on their website, but this is the actual SOC. It's 24/7. My team actually interacts with them quite a bit whenever there are any issues within our network. Next slide. Okay, this is an example of how the sensors are positioned within our network. And so as you can see from here, this is actually behind our firewall, so we can actually detect things coming through our network. This is not outside. If the sensors weren't there, of course, we'd have most of the problems that we're experiencing will be at the end user side. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the cyber hygiene weekly report that I get from CISA. I actually implemented this in 2016. Next slide. Incidentally, this particular service is also a free service. this is an example of the report card. This is a recent report card that I downloaded for this week, and has of course, when you look at all the different colors in there, what I'm looking for primarily are what the criticals are and how many are there in terms of vulnerabilities. Right now, we're scanning for almost 300 IP addresses that are exposed out to within our network, and this particular report that comes from CISA is sent to not only myself but also our systems team, and we do have a weekly review where we actually look at each one of the vulnerabilities and what concerns we have. Next slide. So this just kind of zooms in a little bit on what the report card looks like. Next slide. Next. And yeah, severity by prominence. These are the different vulnerabilities. We've had as many as 150 vulnerabilities total, but we've been holding steady at these numbers, and this is probably the average that you'll see within any enterprise network. Next slide. And next. These are just examples of what the report shows. So the last piece that I want to talk about is just a little bit about our Silence Protect. That this is the product that actually protects our endpoint. Next slide. Okay, this is the dashboard. Of course, this is kind of an eye chart. You can't really see it clearly, but if you can go to the next slide, zoom in a little bit of the metrics on the dashboard, and next slide. Okay, the way this product actually works, most of our systems are Microsoft oriented, and it's what's called OS or operating system agnostic. So it doesn't care if it's an XP or a Windows 8 or a Windows 10 environment. It can find the vulnerability and actually look for those particular viruses. This depicts how many viruses or malware has been detected and are automatically quarantined. Next slide. In this slide, you can see that it went through about 294 million different objects within our network. And whenever we see the green on both sides, it pretty much tells us we're pretty well protected overall. Next slide. Again, just a few threats by priority. Next slide. Let's see, this again, this sorts it out by the different malware and was it potentially unwanted programs, PUP. We scan for all of those different objects, if you will. Next slide. And these are the top 10 that we can find as far as threats that are within our network, and it allows us to actually plan and take action on whatever we find out there on our landscape. Next slide. Okay, this one's a kind of a daily look at where things are spiked. And whenever you see these spikes, these are actually events where we're actually provisioning new equipment and we find vulnerabilities with them, and then they automatically get quarantined. Next slide. Okay, briefly, just talk a little bit about broadband. Go to the next slide. And I think one of the things I wanted to mention about broadband is the federal government is moving forward on a new initiative called Internet for All, and we had the opportunity to participate in a NOFO that was announced last year in 2021. This particular NOFO had put out $288 million to all the different states and territories, and so we competed for that and submitted our actually we partnered with two vendors who wanted to put together proposals to respond to this notice of funding opportunity, and We worked in conjunction, the Office of Technology, with the Bureau of Stats and Plans to actually submit the responses or the proposals by two vendors. The two vendors were IT&E and GTA. IT&E submitted a proposal for about $11 million, and then GTA submitted another proposal for $1 million. And to our surprise, in January 2022, out of about $2 billion in submissions to compete for this 288, Guam was the only territory that was awarded $12 million. We got 100% of what we actually filed for. So I'm working right now closely with NTIA and the broadband infrastructure people to actually go through and implement these plans for this particular side of the broadband. Let's see, next slide. Talk about a little bit about Office of Technology, the department. Next slide. These are some numbers here. We have about 3,200 end users. We support mainly only just the line agencies within the government of Guam. In contrast, we don't support, for example, Guam Memorial Hospital or the Port Authority. Those are all autonomous agencies. We just do the line agencies, which include Revenue Taxation, Department of Administration, the Guam Police Department, Fire Department, Homeland Security, and so on. With that, those are about 40 different line agencies and commissions with over about 100 different lines of business, including everything from law enforcement to finance to public safety. And our biggest department is actually the Department of Public Health and Social Services. And with that, the last number there, 20, we have 20 staff on the Office of Technology. So all 20 staff service these 3,200 endpoints throughout the different regions of the island. Next slide. This is just a list of all the different agencies and commissions that we support. So, of course, the top there is the Governor's Office, and we go down all the way to the different boards. Serve Guam Commission, Guam Police Department, Guam Energy Office. All of these are all entities that are hooked up to our secure network. And next slide. Okay, this is kind of a little bit about all the different things that our office functionally supports. And if we go on to the last slide, just to kind of comment up, it's everything that we do, everything we budget for, everything we do in terms of IT is really an investment. We're not looking at we shouldn't be looking at the cost side of things. We actually should look into the ever-growing investment. And you see things like supply chain, IT workforce, business continuity. These are all real problems that we have to address on a daily basis. And I hope I didn't overstep my time. But any questions? Thank you very much. It was Masi.
Any burning question for our technology information officer for Guam? Yes, sir. Was that in a list of priority?
Which priorities are you talking about? I'm sorry. Oh, no, not necessarily. They all, technically, they're all equal to us. We operate at that level where Paul calls us up. We try to get there in a heartbeat, right, Paul? Right.
Digital equity. Yes. Yes, another question?
Actually, the Guam Memorial Hospital is a autonomous agency. They have their own IT, so that would mean they're behind their own firewall. We do fully support the Department of Public Health and Social Services. So that whole the whole array of services that they deliver, especially during the pandemic, was a major part. In fact, the Office of Technology took a major part in developing the Guam COVID Alert app that we pushed out back in 2021, the end of 2020. You're welcome.
Question from our CNMI OIT.
Well, that's a very good question. Workforce is always going to be a problem, whether it's on Guam, the CNMI, or San Diego, California. So San Diego, California probably has a lot of people competing, but they still have a big gap. What we're doing to address it, well, interestingly enough, we found during the pandemic, we took advantage of a lot of the what the Department of Labor had to offer in what is it? And actually bringing jobs to people who needed jobs. So we were actually able to hire a few of the younger professionals and bring them on board and bridge and foster that. But we had a little bit of growth at that end, but it's still going to be an ongoing problem on the IT side. Yes. The offering comes in. It's the way FirstNet works basically is they prioritize based on emergencies. It's called priority and preemption. And so if there's a major emergency, then a lot of the bandwidth will be dedicated to the first responders who are on that network. But FirstNet's actually designed even for the consumers. It's just you won't have that priority preemption feature.
Thank you, sir.
For your military part of the question, right? So there's only one department in the Army that's under the local FirstNet subscriber plan. The rest of the military are out of, I believe, Honolulu through Naval Base or National Guard Bureau.
That's Paul Rolinski from the Guam Fire Department. Any guaha otro mas para inpaisin? Mayroon mas meta mo siya lubuayhi? Sino gusto magtanong? Anong kailangan natin? Bakit tumatawa ka? Salamat, walang anuman. Anything else? If not, malata na pagpaki. Let's give a round of applause to Frank Lujan. Gimin Paugo Cafe Patuba. All right. Very informative. Again, many of us can certainly look to our neighbor of Guahan on things, on their IT infrastructure and what are the projected plans moving forward. And of course, we will hear from our other partners. But I'd like to take this moment to, again, Dispensa, our Chief of Staff, Will Castro, needed to leave for some work deadline purposes that he's pressing matters he needs to take care of on behalf of his boss, our governor. Also, we're gonna just do a quick 3.5 minutes break. Okay, so we'll have Paul Rolinski from Guam Fire Department and Kyung Sang Kim from Taito, or in Guam, Taito. Just kidding. Set up for the presentation. In the meantime, erstwhile, we will do, Daryl, a couple of, go ahead, Daryl, and you just do the raffle, no? And just call my card.
All right, so while we're doing our break, we are going to be pulling off our raffle prizes. And so the first winner is Michael Calibo. You just won either a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte portable hard drive. Congratulations. These prizes are very, very nice. Our next winner, who will be receiving a professional monitor headphones from Seno, the winner is Christopher Lillis. Round of applause for Christopher Lillis.
Okay.
Very expensive set of headphones right there.
Right on.
And lastly, we have another Seagate hard drive, either 2 terabyte or a 1 terabyte, and the winner is Andrew May. Do we have an Andrew May in the crowd right now? There you go.
Congressman. Ate Parfeni.
Congratulations. For now, that is all for our raffle prizes. Yet we still do have quite a few, so please stay for a while. And we are going to be continuing with our 2-minute break, and then we will proceed with our next presentation. Thank you very much.
And of course, we'll recognize our IT professionals and cadre of staff from the various departments of the CNMI government, from the public school system. Let's give a round of applause. From the Northern Marianas College, from the Homeland Security, from CUC, whose uniforms are embroidered. That's why we're paying extra for LIAC. Just kidding. Thank you, IT from CUC. And from Procurement and Supply. Royo Acoustics Pacific. Okay. We also have the Medicaid, State Medicaid Office, Citon Regis Jr. Who else? Fish and Wildlife. All right, making sure we don't have endangered hackers online. So thank you, Fish and Wildlife. Appreciate it. How's Mr. Kelly doing? It's a pleasure to have you on our island shore. Close, but yet so far. So, but truly, welcome, welcome. Si Zeus Masi. again, reminder, it's for all weekend long for the Marianas Working Group. Sizus Masi Aqua Resort and Spa, all day. Welcome, Marianas Working Group, all day happy hour. Manin yun soda. Nothing in Micronesia or Guam like that, only Saipan. All day happy hour. All day. Half a day. Right, Congressman? Half a day. All day. Yes. You don't even have this in New York City, Brendan. All day happy hour. No. Yeah. Yeah. Quite short, yes. So, Mr. Lujan, all day happy hour. Yeah. All day. Yeah, mahamsa niya sa Guam, so it's all day. All right. We will begin and reconvene for the next session presentation. Darryl, take it away.
The next presentation will be presented by two people. The first is Paul Rolinski, who is a supervisor for the emergency medical dispatcher E911/NG911 for the Guam Fire Department, along with his colleague Kyung Sun Kim, who is a project manager for Taito Athene. A brief bio for Paul Rolinski. He was among the first batch of emergency medical dispatchers hired by the government for the first official 911 center on Guam. He was then promoted to EMD supervisor in 2006, wherein he was responsible for shift operation, day-to-day reporting, managing EMDs with job, task, assistance, and work scheduling. With an inevitable progress, he was assigned as a land mobile radio communications manager for GFD in 2007. As the LMR communications manager, he oversees the acquisition of the entire inventory of all portables, mobile, and base stations. Everyone, please welcome Paul Rolinski and his colleague Kyung Sun Kim.
Have a day. So we're gonna tag team this, myself and Kyung Kim. Can we get next slide? We just have 4 agendas. We're gonna talk about our bios, of course, our LMR, FirstNet, and then NG911. Next slide. So my name is Paul Rolinski. I am an emergency medical dispatcher supervisor for over 21 years already in the emergency medical dispatch field. I'm also the LMR communications and IT manager for Guam Fire Department. I am the administrator for the FirstNet for Guam Fire Department, and the author and point of contact for the Guam NG911 RFP and implementation. Next slide. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Kyung Kim, and he can give you a breakdown of his bio and work.
So thank you, Paul. Yes, first of all, thank you everyone for inviting myself from Guam to participate in the event. It's I really appreciate it. I feel like I'm learning a lot. So a little bit, maybe I should start with bio with my company. So it is Taito Athene, and we're currently contracted to deploy the new next generation 911 system for Guam, and we'll discuss a little more detailed about what that is, and maybe you have some question about what that is, etc. But let me just start out with my my personal bio as well. So actually, I've only been with the company for a year, so maybe there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of going on. I might not to speak of. So actually, prior to that, so a year prior, so I've been with Docomo for 14 years, actually. So my last position was director of the wireless radio access network and responsibility for both Guam and CNMI. And I do recognize, when I say that very carefully, because still there might be coverage holes or something in Rota Tini or Saipan. So just apologize. Please don't hold it against me. But so yeah, so you're probably also like, why is this guy here? And what's his deal? Leaving Docomo after 14 years. So maybe I think Will kind of gave us a little it's like a history lesson, right? History. So maybe you could indulge me a little bit. So he set a date, and actually I wasn't even thinking of sharing that, but since made me kind of nostalgic. So 2017, he was talking about how that was an important date for him and then the Marianas working group. So personally for me, that was actually a very important date as well, because in 2017, I vividly remember March of 2017, my boss calls me into his office, right? And he tells me two things. Okay, first, there's something called FirstNet, right? I don't know what it is. That's FirstNet, but you're taking lead with this. And second is apparently the CEO of NTT Docomo Japan is tracking it. So good luck, right? That was my introduction to it. And then the week after, literally, I had a call with the AT&T folks, and they're like, there's this thing called FirstNet. You probably don't know what it is, but it's a nationwide dedicated public safety broadband network, right? And it's supposed to be providing for all of the continental U.S., but also the 3 Pacific territories of Guam, CNMI, and American Samoa. And they're like, oh, we completely forgot about this. It wasn't part of our, design. So that was kind of where we started, March of 2017. 3 years later, we're able to launch FirstNet, and that's actually where I had the fortune of working with these two gentlemen who spoke before me, Frank and Paul as well. Frank was a single point of contact for the FirstNet initiative, and Paul was the lead for the Guam Fire Department and for the agency. And so during that entire time, I was part of that, and that was an AT&T initiative. At the time, the company I'm with was AT&T Government Solutions Inc. And even prior to launch, there was a lot of discussion about 911, next generation 911 system, and discussions about, hey, if we do this FirstNet thing, then what does this mean, integration for the NG911? So I had a long time to think about it, and when my current company, Taito Atin, or previously AT&T GSI, won the contract, right? I had an opportunity to kind of join the team, and it's kind of it's round 2 again. It's the same folks actually, right? Frank is working on the governance side, Paul is working on the agency lead again, and I'm also on the contractor. And one of the cool things about this relationship and working arrangement is that we're kind of building the institutional knowledge. It's not like you have these interesting things and like it comes up and it's siloed. Like we have an opportunity to think about how we got to where we are, and as we look forward to integrating, improving our public safety communication, we can think about how can we make this work, right? And what is the path ahead? And so just to kind of real brief. So actually, technically, my company Taito, I think it's owned by a venture capital company called Arlington Capital. It owns many different umbrellas, where Taito GSI is a piece. But basically, their deal is their main primary business is providing IT services, system integration services to DoD. And my team actually handles quite a bit of the Navy side. That's our main project. And if you go to the next slide, you're probably asking, so what does this company, why are they in Guam? Why 911? What's their credential? So currently, my team handles the 911 system for all of Navy. Actually, this is for the continental U.S., Hawaii, and Guam, right? So the 911 center that's at the Regional Dispatch Center and Joint Regions Marianas, that's actually managed by our team. So in a nutshell, the system that we're going to be putting in for Guam, the new NG911 system, is actually the same system that the Navy uses, actually. And it's going to be supported and managed by the same team that's handling the Navy 911 system. And we'll go a little bit more detail once we get to the 911 portion, kind of giving a more detailed update. But basically, nutshell of who I am and the company that I represent here today.
Next slide. So LMR. So for Guam, we have a total of 4 LMR sites. All those sites are hardened with backup electricity to them. As it stands now, we have over 18 government agencies on that LMR system. We have 9 federal and military combined, and 3 private entities using that GovGuam LMR. There's no cost to use it. Only the cost you're going to have is buying your own hardware. And then what myself and Mr. John Bama from Guam Police does go out there and assist you in programming it to use for your agency. Current status of LMR today, like Frank said, we're still using it. It's the Motorola SmartNet. It's way over 25 years. It's getting more and more expensive to try and keep it up and running. And Cliff, as you know, technology changes every 90 days. That's over 25 years old, so it's time that we change it. The future of LMR. So Guam Police Department a couple weeks ago has awarded the LMR consulted contract to one of the vendors that applied for it. And that's to upgrade the entire GovGuam LMR system to become P25 capable. Now, what this consultant's going to do is he's going to go around to all the stakeholders that utilize the LMR system and talk with everybody and ask them what would they want to do with it, how can it work better, and also bring that over to NG 911. So we can't wait for that to happen. Next slide. FirstNet. So in March 30, March 30 in 2020 was when I believe Guam and Saipan launched FirstNet services for Guam, or for the Marianas. One thing for Guam, it's majority subscriber paid. So I want to say all public safety agencies across the government of Guam are on FirstNet services through subscriber paid. We have no agency paid as of this time. I am working on that to get Guam Fire Department agency paid so we can pay for services and also get hardware at a very, very cheaper rate. One of the FirstNet cases or use cases we had was the deployable, the cow that we used for the first time in one of our search and rescue missions. It was an overdue scuba diver who went out in one of our beaches, Tengisan Beach in Guam, never came back or didn't come back within the time he was supposed to. And we set up a command post down at the bottom of Tengisan Beach, and we couldn't get any broadband or broadband services down there, whether across 3 of the carriers that we have in Guam. So what I did was I made the 1-800. I called the 1-800 number for FirstNet and request for a deployable. Well, they came out and assisted us, and we were able to have broadband connection so we can actually shoot data from the command post to our search and rescue boat and vice versa back during this mission. Another deployable we have is the CRD, which is the compact rapid deployable that was given to us earlier this year in June. That's a smaller scale deployable. You can actually put it in a tow hitch of your truck, drive it to anywhere you want, and set it up. What that has band 14 capability, that has satellite for satellite connection in the event there is no broadband connectivity there. And it's we have it free for use for 1 year. After that, we're gonna have to, of course, pay for the SAT services, and we're gonna negotiate that once that time comes. We were able to use it at our Liberation Day parade. It went very well. We were able to connect the mobile command post and give them internet services so they can actually monitor whatever may have been going on or around the Liberation Day parade. Some of the pros and cons for FirstNet, and I'll start with the pros first, is Guam Public Safety has priority all the time. So in the CONUS, you have a priority and preemption, right? So if there's any disaster or anything, they'll switch the FirstNet users from preemption over to priority. In Guam, we're always a priority. So we would never, ever have to wait for that switch, whether there's a disaster or not. Affordable rates, very, very affordable rates for all first responders. I believe the plans are $39.99 and $44.99 for unlimited text talk data and service in the States. That's seamlessly once you land in anywhere in the CONUS. AT&T. So those guys are the FirstNet.com side of that. Their help desk is very, very responsive to any issues that we have. We could call them up pretty much any time of the day, and our first phone call would be to Honolulu, and the lady there, Liz, answers our call all the time. Some of the cons we have is, unfortunately, there is no FirstNet rep on the island. I kind of feel like myself, Mr. John Bamba, and Lee are the FirstNet rep for FirstNet because, since day one, we've been a part of it along with Mr. Lujan. Deployable takes kind of long to respond, and that's something that we are working on. I know in the CONUS it's a 14-hour deploy time, but on Guam, it's got to be less than an hour. So that's something we're working on. And as of right now, I don't think there is any agency paid program yet for Guam. I know Saipan, Cliff Homeland, you guys have that. Great. I may reach out to Joey and Gerald and just see how they did the agency paid and get some of their ideas and use some of their language for us in Guam. LMR versus FirstNet. Now, this is a very interesting subject. So what you see on the map are just legends of what we did or what I did. What I wanted to do was I wanted to compare both, right? Because they're both competition type services. You have LMR, which is 700, 800 megahertz radio frequency. And then you have FirstNet, which is broadband. So what I wanted to do, and I asked Young, is I wanted to compare using LMR and FirstNet at each of the locations you see there, which are white. So we went over almost 20, if not over 20 locations and tested it. The red part there is all the, that's LMR or FirstNet. Okay, so all the red marks there are where FirstNet was better than LMR. So we didn't have any LMR services there. We did 300 tests within 2 days of each device, right? And each service. The blue parts, and you can see that there's not so many of them, is where LMR triumphed over LTE. And I believe it's only one spot, which was our Marble Cave area. So even being down there, phone services is almost 0 to none. So what I did was I set up the percentage that you see at the bottom there, and I reported it to FirstNet, and I told them, I said, hey, there's still kind of a few dead spots that need to go around. How can we get that fixed? So they are in the process as we speak. As a matter of fact, I just got an email, and they're saying that they're looking into it. They have established I think a repeater site off of Route 15 where the Marble Cave is. So I don't know. We haven't done any tests since then, but once we get back, we will be doing some tests. I can give it over to Kyung, and he could probably talk more about the whole how it was rated and all that.
Sure. Let me just add a little bit of icing on the cake there. So what's interesting, I think, and I think part of the discussion we have is kind of breaking that. So my background is from the telecommunication side, right? The wireless communication. So I deployed 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and even the FirstNet. And even when I joined and supporting the GFD and public safety, I was also like, what is LMR? If I ask this question to my colleagues back Docomo and some of the other carriers, I'm sure they'll all be like, LMR? Oh, I think that's just something that the government guys use or public safety. And then, but actually to demystify the situation, right? If you think about it, like there's a lot of there, but on a technical situation, when you talk about these are all radio technology, right? And then if you kind of think about the LMR system that the government of Guam uses in Guam, it's equivalent to its first generation. It's analog, right? And even the new LMR system that they're looking at, P25, and I think Saipan already has that here, it's actually technically TDMA, 2G, actually. But the funny thing is me looking outside in and looking at this region. So it's like first generation, second generation, the price is 5G. So I thought that's very interesting, and I think something that Peter kind of mentioned early in the discussion. He was talking about no competition, poor competition. And for me, like I would circle and highlight that. In a nutshell, for those who make decisions here, now what is FirstNet and what is it supposed to be? In essence, it's competition, right? It's partner service provider that's not technically a traditional provider of services, but it's this idea that there is another non-traditional partners who may be able to provide solutions that may be better suited, maybe more cost effective, and that's kind of the discussion, and that should be had, right? To and also think about, and for example, right? So we have the latest greatest like 5G that we're talking about, and in our discussion with public safety, it's pretty comprehensive, right? LMR, what the current police, fire, and then the public communications agency utilizes. We're talking FirstNet, but there's another technology that's technically not on it, but should be part of discussion. It's actually satellite. Maybe some of you are kind of versed with it. I just take it for granted because it's kind of my lane. But if you know the there's already talks of 6G actually. So I don't know, you're probably like, already have 5G. What's so great about it? But right now, even with the 6th generation specification, it actually involves satellite. Did you know that? So there's specification already put in where your phone one day will actually talk to a satellite communication. And you were talking about CNMI, all the different things. You have undersea cable, you have terrestrial microwave. Satellite's a big portion of consideration. So it's like there is partners and solutions and industries that may be able to assist with some of the pain points we have, but it's maybe a non-traditional. So that's a discussion for us to kind of continue to think about. Competition is good, right? And I think all the initiative that Paul and the team has had, but it's good for competition, and because that's one of the key things that's gonna make sure prices are affordable. And I think Peter was kind of mentioning about CNMI internet independence, and that's key. And then part of that is making sure you have all the available partners available to kind of think about the situation. So I wanted to just kind of add my 2 cents about that.
Thanks, Gil. All right, next slide. And finally, NG911. So as I said earlier, and what Dara was saying, I've been a dispatcher emergency medical dispatcher for over 21 years. To this day, we're still using that same 911 system. It's got us this far. It's at end of life, way over already, just like our LMR. So in July 27, 2021, we awarded title with the next generation 911 system contract. And what that did was that just started the ground breaking for what we're going to see coming in the next slide, which is how we went from this picture from the signing over to where we're at now. Next slide. So Guam, so NG911 is a NENA I3 compliant NG911 system. It's going to have geo-redundancy via data centers in both Hagåtña and Harmon, which is our co-locations, also used for, of course, redundancy. We're going to be able to see and locate wireless callers calling throughout the island of Guam. And soon we're going to get a text to 911. The challenge with those is some FCC compliancy with text to 911. Once we get the 911 center or the NG911 center cut over, then we issue out a letter to all the local exchange carriers to say, hey, look, we're ready to accept NG or text to 911. Please let us know what else would be needed from that. So it's just a letter from the agency or government or Guam Fire Department to the local exchange carrier saying we're ready for connection to for text to 911. I'm sorry. So what you see there on the right or on the right hand side is our call handling portion, and our call handling vendor through title is going to be Solacom. As you can see in the GUI up there, it's everything there is at the click of a mouse. How it is right now is our dispatchers, myself included, we're the CAD. We're the call handling and the CAD system. We're taking that away from them and simplifying it by just clicking a button with your mouse. So we're going to have to de-educate them on what they do now, and I think that's going to be a big learning curve for them because they're so used to doing everything manually. Well, the call handling in the CAD is going to take care of everything there. At the bottom portion there, you're going to see on the second GUI, those are just information that you're going to see there per call. So if a call comes up and it has a history that myself or any of my colleague dispatchers there wrote in, you're going to see all the data history that we did there. The map you see on the side is going to be where the call phone or where the call is originating from, whether it's wireless or landline. That's what you're going to see there. So we're pretty excited. The team is super excited. Next slide, please. And this slide here just shows you what our dispatch center is going to look like. So what I did was, currently as it stands, we're working in tandem with Guam Police Department, who is our next door neighbor up at the E911 Center. So what I did when I wrote that was I took that concept and I wrote it into the RFP, and I created 10 workstations, which would be 4 dispatcher workstations plus a supervisor for Guam Fire Department, and then 4 law enforcement dispatchers and a supervisor for the police. So in the total, there's 10 workstations there. These are state-of-the-art work centers. Those desks that you see there can go up and down, so they don't always have to sit down. They can stand up and work. The black portion where the monitors hook up, that goes up and down as well for eye comfort. Underneath them, we have heaters, and I know Guam doesn't get snow, but heaters are important because in the 911 centers, it's always kept cool. Any 911 center you go into, it's super, super cold. So we worked that into there. We also put some cooling fans on the top. What you don't see there yet are the screen monitors, and we're going to have a series of 5 screen monitors that you're going to see. 2 for call handling, 2 for CAD, and 1 for radio or LMR, or two-way radio communication. Come December, that's when the workstations come in. We put them up, and from there, it's just hit the ground running and get ready to open in Q1 of 2023. And hopefully the cutover goes smoothly. I know we still have a lot of work to do after that, and we're looking forward to it. And some of our female dispatchers came down the other day, or last week, and we're super excited about to see it because I've never showed them this yet. I wanted to surprise them, and they already started selecting where they're going to sit and all that. But anyways, along with this system, we have 4 backup, I want to say 911 to-go kits. So in the event that this 911 center goes down, we're able to take our 4 to-go kits, go to anywhere that has of course, security and safety, and has an internet connection, and establish 911 from there. So if it be at a hotel, if it be at our backup coop site or a fire station, as long as there's internet connection, 911 will work. So that's NG 911 technology in a nutshell. We've come far from what we currently have now. With our old system, we made it work, even though we're not going to have half of the features that we're going to have now. We made it work. It's still working up to this day. It's on its last leg, so it's way overdue for an upgrade. And with that being said, I am done. Thank you, guys. No questions. Thank you. I'll let you guys have. I can answer them.
Do you guys have any questions for Mr. Rilinski? Yes, right here.
Doing your GIS and geolocation integration for the location of your callers.
So the GIS and geolocation will be done by our CAD vendor, Caliber system, in conjunction with myself doing the groundwork of correcting multiple street names that have all the same names, but all the same street but different names. So we're working on that. That's one of my projects too, as it is now. So I've reached out to all the village mayors, gave them a spreadsheet of all these street names that have different names, right? On Guam, we have Chalan Gualiig, right? Which could be Gualiig Lane, which is Gualiig Road. So we need to verify, and our CAD vendor needs to verify what is the true and correct name. And who else to answer that would be the mayor's office. So I reached out to them. I don't want to guess, because in case I'm wrong, then it's on me. So I left it out to the mayor. Frank, as department, is actually trying to be the central repository for all GIS data, to include stuff from Bureau of Statistics and Planning, um, DPW, and the mayor's office. So we're working with him too to get all that GIS locations going, to include some of the agencies such as Guam Power Authority and Guam Waterworks. So it's a combined effort. We're hoping to establish a master street address guide that I've volunteered to control and manage, and hopefully, it works out. Yes, sir. Yeah, so that's something I asked too. However, the master street address guide is just needed just so we could make sure that everything is correct moving forward in technology with with the MSAG, which is, you're right, old technology to new. So it's just something that our vendor just needs to establish, just to make sure everything is in the right, where all the addresses are correct. Some of the issues we've had were like road centerline mapping. We had over 1,200 roads with no names. So those are stuff that, we still have to look into. As far as GIS location when we go live, I'd want to say yes, but I know we're going to have our issues with it. And we're already working on that as we speak. So yeah, is it going to be a true NG 911 center once we cut over? Definitely not. I'm sure you know as well as I know that even in the CONUS, there is no true NG 911, or the majority is, they're not even ready yet. We have the RDC who's NG 911 capable, but not NG 911 ready.
So I want to clarify one thing. Thank you, Paul. No, so definitely the system we're going to be putting in is going to be NINA i3, V3, next generation 911 compliant. But there's a lot of missing pieces, honestly, right? Because it's not like CONUS, where there's a lot of things are in place infrastructure-wise. MSAG authority, we don't have an MSAG authority. You recognize GIS. So the situation we have right now is that it's not an ideal situation, but in a sense, but they're dealing with operational concerns. We have COVID to deal with. We have different malfunction with a 20, 30-year-old system that they're trying to operate. So like currently, it's a very pressing issue for this in day to day. They really need help, and what we're trying to do as a vendor is trying to do everything that we can to help them to get into the nice system that they have, and it's not gonna be perfect. I can attest to that 100%. We would like to have wireless location capability available from day one. Our system will support it, right? Meaning, say when you make a 911 call, the dispatcher won't spend 30 seconds and a minute trying to figure out, okay, where are you at? Where is the location? Or if they're roamer, they're just just frustrated with what they're talking about. The system is able to be compliant. It will be able to receive it technically. Will we have that from all the respective carriers? We're hoping so, but we recognize it might not be ideal. One of the design consideration we have is geo-redundant, right? In case one of the centers, act of God or some sort of backhoe or something like that, if one of the facility gets isolated for somehow, we have planned for geo-redundancy. Would all the carriers have geo-redundant connection and everything set up? We don't know. So we're gonna prepare for the worst, hope for the best. But there's this idea that if we wait for the ideal perfect condition, we'll never get there. So recognize there is a minimum requirements. It might not be perfect, but we want to make sure what the team needs. The fire department, police, and public safety. Dispatchers, we'll be able to help them set a baseline and look to continue building. So it's not like we go live Q1 and then we're done. No, that's not that. So this is a long-going relationship. So we want to continue working, and that's part of reaching out and support for the different agency and carrier. So that's what I want to clarify. It will be compliant, right? But yeah.
Yes, sir.
For T-Mobile and AT&T have already abandoned those in the network. Because of 3G, there are limitations on the geolocation being able to be found from the handset location, which is the primary way we're going to operate, because nobody in Guam or the CNMI has ever set up the network location, and since that's a retiring technology, it makes no sense to invest in it now. So I think we're still possibly 1 to 2 years before we get 100% geolocation, because everybody's going to need to have a 4G or LTE or VoLTE handset or higher. Yes.
Let me answer this. So this is something, I have, I understand the situation. So a year ago, I was in the carrier's seat. I was thinking about like the expensive, exactly the points that Bob has given. We have 4G systems, 5G systems, 3G system. They, even though they're just numerals, there's like one number above. It's actually completely different system requiring different upgrades, different costs in basic. There's different expenses. And one of the things we say officially in public, and actually, whether it's the fire department or Taito, which is just a government contractor, right, handles DoD, we're not the FCCs. So the FCCs specify requirement as far as wireless location. They're very clear about that. Once the public safety entity goes operational and the system is able to ask for wireless locations, you have 6 months to provide that. How that goes, we're not going to be in the middle of that. That's a conversation each of the carriers has to have with FCC, and there's different extenuating circumstances, but we're not FCC lawyers, so that's guidance. But at the same time, we recognize there are challenges, right? It's difficulty trying to get all these different systems up and running. So we definitely want to not being antagonistic about it. But at the end of the day, we don't want to lose focus, right? Ultimately, we're here to support, our public, and I sometimes have to have this conversation, with my boss as well. So I'm talking from this. I'm wearing my title hat, but I'm gonna wear my Guam citizenship hat, right? And like, what is best for the, our people, our families. I have family there, so it's that. So it's like we can get really caught up with some of the compliance, regulatory, and things like that. But at the end of the day, we're not losing sight of what we're trying to achieve, right? And not, get that, focus loss. So that's, I think, part of it. So I don't know if I answered that question, but yeah.
So I just want to add one more thing. So the RDC, which is the Regional Dispatch Center for the Navy, Hawaii is having troubles keeping their 911 call takers, keeping them employed, right? The turnover ratio over there is kind of high. So what they did was they borrowed employees from Guam's RDC, and went out there to Hawaii for 3 months just to help pick up the load with their 911 call center. Cliff, I've talked to Chief Castro on this. One Marianas is very, very good for me. I think if you guys get an NG91 system out here, and I'd love to help you guys, I'm all yours. We could create one Marianas there. In the event that Guam goes short or CNMI goes short, we can charter our employees back and forth as long as we have the same, or as long as we have the same understanding of how the system of 911 works. So, that's great. One Marianas, working with this Marianas working group, is, I think, something that we should look forward to in the event of emergency communications. Yeah.
So one thing, what Paul said, sorry, it's got me on now. So with the system that we have for the Navy, so that's what he described exactly, because you have multiple regional dispatch center across the nation. If one of them fails, it actually is transferred over. So no 911 calls actually miss because there is a failover in place. So interesting thing about Guam, right? So we have a system with Joint Region Marianas. Technically, their MOU and agreement is with the Air Force. So there's already a DoD relationship, kind of memo. If the Navy, has a failover, it'll go to Anderson, and if Anderson goes to Navy. So that's actually kind of the bureaucracy and things like that. And what Paul is saying is correct, right? Me thinking about it from, as a citizen, right? So because the system that we'll have technically, and we talked about geo redundancy on Guam, so still goes down. But technically, right, if there's another NG91 system in CNMI, it's a perfect way to have actual geo redundant. You know, I mean, like the distance to do data, honestly speaking, I mean, like there's like 10, 20, 15 miles. Like if there's a huge catastrophic, calamity, right, then we're all in a, deep trouble. So that is not a technical problem. That's actually a geopolitical kind of consideration. So if there's a will to do, kind of make that work on the technical side, that is very much doable. I think that's a very noble, purpose.
15. You said technical 15 times. Just wanted to put it out there if anybody was counting. All right, I think, so you had a
This
question?
is the last question.
Okay, thank you.
I was curious whether the new system will be able to take video from a caller and integrate it on your screen, and would that video be captured and actually be evidence in your system?
Definitely. So that's one of the features of NG911 is it can accept video, pictures, and text. So yeah, you're right. One of the biggest questions that came up was, does a dispatcher really want to see what's going on at the scene live? For me, I don't need to see it, right? As a call taker, I'm already experiencing by trying to get medical attention to this person who's in need of dire need of emergency services. So then somebody sending me over a picture over 911, I wouldn't want to see it, but yes, sir. Yeah, so with NG91, the technology will allow us to receive pictures, text, and videos. Okay, thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rulinski and Mr. Kim, for the wonderful presentation. We are now going to be moving on to the next part of our event, which is the last and final private-public partnership working session. And so the question is, it's up there, how can the emergency broadcast system currently in place be enhanced and integrated across the Mariana Islands and Micronesia as a whole for use during natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, crises, and so forth? So please, you have around 30 minutes for this one. 30 minutes to talk amongst one another and discuss certain solutions for this question. Thank you so much.
So we're gonna do a couple of raffles, and you have to be physically here, not spiritually here. Yes, it's the North American numbering plan that was. So, Daryl. The next winner for another external drive. Oh, he's not here. From NM Tech, Steve Sablon. Okay, so Mike Fleming is picking it up for him. From NM Tech, thank you. Congratulations, Steve Sablon is the network administrator, and his teammate. Take it from him, from Daryl. All right, NM Tech. Can you pick up? P1. Yeah. And Mike, can you pick up the next cart? Can you pick up the next cart? The next winner, Anthony Regis from Medicaid. Right on, picked up by Daryl. Yeah, he's here. See? We'll do another raffle. Daryl, did you want to pick? How many more? How many more you have? Oh, two more, so that, okay. So we'll go ahead and take a break for now on the raffle. And we will do another one just before we adjourn. Okay, so we're going to reconvene, and then we'll just have a couple of feedback before we get the floor to BWA, right? And so the question before going on a short recess, how can the emergency broadcast system currently in place be enhanced and integrated across the Mariana Islands and Micronesia as a whole for use during natural disasters, i.e. earthquakes, tsunamis, crises, and so forth? I was talking earlier with Mr. Bob Kelly, and I think it's quite insightful that we just hear his insights of the transition between the $15 a minute phone call and then also this question up here with the alert system.
Okay, I'll start out by addressing the EAS system. How many people think that the CNMI has a working EAS today? Raise your hands. All of you are correct. First off, there has to be an EAS committee. It's made up of broadcasters, your wireless operators, your cable companies that would have meetings to set up working with Homeland Security here or your emergency EMO to be able to make alerts go out. And this is all set up. There has to be a primary station and a secondary station that is contacted by your local civil defense office or local emergency management office. That has not been set up. You need to integrate into what's called IPAWS, which is the system that's set up by FEMA by network. That's currently not been put in place here. Without these items, you don't have a working EAS system. In Guam, we get EAS alerts on a required weekly test by the broadcasters. Has anybody here ever heard any weekly tests in the CNMI on your cable systems or on your radio? No, because it hasn't been set up. This needs to be done as soon as possible. It's a requirement by the FCC for the radio stations to participate, but they can't participate if you don't have an EAS working out of your emergency office. So this has to be done. The money's there federally. FEMA has money for this. It just has to be put in place so you have that emergency alert system. So when it says here on the question, and it's why I brought this up, I guess the question's not there anymore, what can we do to make the current EAS system better? There is no current one here. So to make it better is establish an EAS committee, get the broadcasters working with your emergency services so that they are able to receive the alerts and run the weekly tests and set CNMI up the way it is required to be across the nation. And that has to be done, in my opinion, as soon as possible.
Thank you. I think it's all part and parcel of our comprehensive bird's eye aerial view and, of course, assessment diagnostics of our current infrastructure in order to bolster it so that it becomes resilient and dynamic for our unique purposes and our extenuating social geographic circumstances. Without no further ado, we will proceed and reconvene with the next activity and session. And Daryl, you want to introduce the next panel of speakers or presenters? Take it away.
Mic test. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Gonzalez. Now we are going to be, welcome back everyone from that short break. Now we are going to be moving on to the topic of, we have a vendor presentation that it will be first led by Brandy Utalan. She is a federal partner, customer service director, GSA, Federal Acquisition Service, Customer Accounts, and Stakeholder Engagement Division. So Brandy Utalan is a federal partner representing GSA, Federal Acquisition Service, Customer Accounts, and Stakeholder Engagement Division. She is responsible for strategic account management, and regional coordination efforts that support the military, federal agencies, and state local customers located in Guam. Everyone, please welcome Brandy Atala.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. I know it's late in the afternoon and everybody is like tired, maybe a little hungry, and also interested in what's going on the stage with all the drones. So I just wanted to clarify that I'm not a vendor. I'm actually a GSA. I'm actually a government employee. I represent GSA, the Federal Acquisition Service. So the reason I'm here today is I was invited by the CIO's office in order to talk about how GSA can help the CNMI, and meaning how can I help the CNMI leverage the largest IT contracts that the government has, and those are through GSA. So that being said, we'll go ahead and, actually, I guess we have to wait because we don't have our IT folks up here to start the presentation. So
yes, apologies.
No,
There
that's
has been
okay.
a
I know we're
technical
early,
hiccups.
but so just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I actually reside in Guam. I do work for GSA, the Federal Acquisition Service side of the house. My territory is Guam, the CNMI, the Pacific Islands, American Samoa, Australia, and then I also handle the embassies, especially the embassy out in the Philippines with all the federal agencies that are assigned out there. So the work that I do is basically, I'm more on the marketing side of the house. So basically I'm promoting all the GSA business lines, making sure that all of the federal agencies, the state governments, DOD is aware of what contracts are available for them to use. Okay. So with that being said, the last time I was in the CNMI was in 2019, pre-COVID. So it's nice to be back to see the island and see everyone. And so I'm so excited to be here. And again, I want to thank the CAO's office for the invitation to come out, and also the OIT team, because additionally to this symposium today, I actually participated or actually facilitated training for the CNMI government yesterday. And we actually have another training tomorrow. So the OIT team has been great in helping me set that up and stream it so all the agencies can partake in it. All right, here we go. Next, please. So this is just a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about, just a little bit about GSA, Federal Acquisition Service, talking about the contracts, which is the multiple award schedule, and the program that allows the CNMI government to participate with the GSA schedules, and then the IT offerings that are available. Next, please. So GSA basically, as far as the Federal Acquisition Service side of the house is concerned, we are considered the procurement arm of the federal government. So we handle all of the major contracts, and then we also promote the policies. So that's going on within GSA for the federal government. So one of the things I wanted to mention is that GSA also supports FedRAMP. And if you're not familiar with what FedRAMP is, it's the Federal Risk and Authorization Program. It's a government-wide program that promotes the adaptation of secure cloud services across the federal government, standardizing the approach to security and risk assessment. GSA actually sits on the Joint Authorization Board with CIOs from DOD, DHS, and within GSA itself. So the Federal Acquisition Service has what we call the Multiple Award Schedules program, and that allows us to provide the best pricing for our federal and state and local customers. So with that being said is we manage the program, which is a commercial contracts for supplies and services. Part of our priorities, of course, is to serve our government partners, also expanding opportunities for small business, and then lending innovation. And we also, we have category management that provides best-in-class contract vehicles. Next, please. So what is a multiple award schedule? Multiple award schedule is a 5-year IDIQ contract with a potential for 3 additional 5-year periods. So a GSA vendor that has competed for, or actually I say a commercial vendor that has competed for a GSA contract can actually have a schedule for up to 20 years. So the prices are also negotiated. So when we deal with a potential vendor that actually is awarded a GSA schedule, they're providing the government their best their platinum pricing. So those contracts are negotiated with our GSA contracting officers. And so their best platinum pricing is what the federal government and the state and local governments and DOD is able to partake in for their procurement requirements. One thing to mention is that the contracts comprise of 9,700 contracts across IT. We do have about 40 million products and services available to the agencies. Next, please. Next, please. So this program here, the Cooperative Purchasing Program, this is the program that allows the CNMI government to participate within the GSA Schedules program and utilize the contracts. So what does that mean for the CNMI? It basically means that you are authorized to utilize the GSA schedules that we have available for IT and also for security and protection. In addition to some other schedules, there are like 4 components of the different programs that are available to state and local government. But for the purpose of this presentation, we're just going to discuss IT. Next, please. And this is just showing that the 2 authorities in the Cooperative Purchasing Program are the different 2 laws, the Public Law 107-137 and 110-248. Next, please. Okay, so here, the IT technology category. So this is a major category within GSA. This is the largest IT category within the federal government that provides IT solutions, IT solutions, mobility, hardware, cloud, and software. So as you can see, we do offer competitive pricing, reduced procurement lead times, and direct purchasing. So you can actually go through GSA to make the purchase, or you can actually connect with our GSA vendors directly and make the purchases through your contracting offices. We do also have an open solicitation, so we on-ramp and off-ramp vendors, so we're always up to date on the latest technology. And 83% of our IT vendors are small businesses, so we do meet all the social economic categories, meaning small business, women-owned, service disabled, veteran-owned, 8A, hub zone. Next, please. So here, the IT categories, we do have 5 IT categories. Some of the solutions have been broken down into IT categories: hardware, security, IT services, software, telecommunications, and network services. One of the big things to remember, the schedule, utilizing the GSA schedules, is the contracts are pre-negotiated, and it definitely does reduce the procurement time. And while the vendor, what is it, Taito, am I saying it right? Taito. I did look into their information, and they do also hold a GSA schedule as well. Next, please. So the first one here is IT hardware. So we do offer a wide range of IT and telecommunications hardware and services for one-off purchases or as part of a total IT solution. So examples would be communications equipment, computer equipment, fiber optic equipment, and then also hardware services such as maintenance, SmartNet for Cisco products as an example. I know that some of this stuff is dry, and I want to tell you, I'm not an IT expert by any way. I just promote the business line, but if you do have specific questions, IT-related questions, I can definitely take your information and get you the answers. Next, please. The next category is IT software. So software purchase agreements, formerly known as like Smart Buy, offers commodity software and services at deep discounts. We also have enhanced software licensing agreements. These enhancements of existing agreements reduce the cost and complexities with federal acquisition of commercial software. So they provide ready access to software agreements that are in place and available for use. And some examples is Adobe, Dell, EMC, HPE, IBM, and ServiceNow. Okay, next please. So the next category is cloud solutions. So those are available. We do have offerings for cloud solutions that look at like cloud-focused labor hours for any cloud project or in an all-in-one solution, for example. Next, please. So here is just a quick page of our Cloud Information Center that is available, and you can find that on cic.gsa.gov. So this is just something that I just wanted to point out, that this is available to go out and find additional information. Another good area to find additional information on technology is our main web page. at www.gsa.gov. There, search for the technology tab, and then you can go through the technology tab, and the different areas are like buying IT, information on building digital services, managing your digital services, learning more about government IT in general, and then how to connect with GSA technical teams, technology teams to get more information. So GSA is definitely here to be your partner. Next, please. And then IT security. Of course, IT security is a big topic nowadays. So we do offer cybersecurity products and services that you can customize to help your agency enhance security, improve resilience, protect important information, and bring your systems up to date. So some of the tools and contract vehicles that we can provide to help you purchase secure solutions, for example, are the highly adaptive cybersecurity services. So the HACS, I guess if you want to say, or HACS, provides quicker access to quality cybersecurity support services to test systems, addressing issues that make your agency vulnerable, and stop attacks. Additionally is IT protocol version 6, and then trusted internet connections as well. And all of this also follows the guidance from the National Institute of Standards and Technology Cybersecurity Framework, which organizes basic cybersecurity activities into high-level functions. Like I know it was mentioned before, like identity, protect, detect, respond, and recover. That supports cybersecurity risk management. Then next, please. Then we also have IT services that are available on our schedule. So some of the IT solutions that we do have are, for example, is IT professional services, IT consulting, IT management, systems engineering, IT training, outsourcing of IT requirements, automated contact center solutions, cloud services, data center services, health IT services, implementation services, operations and maintenance, and then additionally help desk support. And our last category of IT offerings is telecommunications and, oh, I'm sorry, next slide. Telecommunications and network services. So GSA does offer a variety of solutions in the telecommunications network services arena and satellite offerings under the IT schedule in general. So a variety of services such as mobility, wireless carrier solutions, integrated network solutions, infrastructure design, installation, and implementation, professional services that support those existing networks, upgrades to network equipments, transition planning and integration services, customized client-specific systems, and electronic commerce services and solutions. That one is more like cable TV, Wi-Fi, and et cetera. And for Guam or CNMI, because the market is not the large Sprint, Verizon, we have our own on-island companies that may not apply here, but that is something that is offered. In addition, our commercial satellite communication services help federal, state, and local agencies maintain existing and secure communications when there's no wire line or wireless base exists. So commercial off-the-shelf and custom solutions do include mobile, fixed, and broadcast satellite services like Iridium and Irmostat, of course, for support of continuing operations and distance learning. And then we also, last but not least, we do offer telecom and satellite solutions that can be procured through our GSA IDIQ contracts, enterprise infrastructure solutions, EIS, and commercial SATCOM solutions, CS3. Next, please. So it was short and sweet, just kind of giving you a real quick overview of what type of contracts are available through GSA that the CNMI government can take advantage of, and to procuring whatever they need to meet their technology needs. With that being said, I hope there's no questions. That's very technical. But I did want to just reiterate that I am always, part of my job too is to provide training on what services and solutions are available to our state and local governments. And I try to come out here at least once or twice a year to give training, to meet with customers, try to find out what their requirements are, and see how we can definitely help you meet your requirements, meet those needs for your requirements. And of course, you know, while saving you money, making sure you're getting the best price, the best value for what you're purchasing. Yes, sir. I don't work with the NASPO, but I know what you're talking about, yes. So there's some overlap of similarities in the duties, yes, but I represent the federal government. I don't believe they're federal government, the NASPO. State and local, yeah, yeah. But, you know, so like, for example, Guam can take advantage of the contracts as well. And I actually met with the Guam Department, Director of Administration just the other day. So we're also looking at how I should say, how Guam can actually, you know, avail of these contracts as well. Because I know the state government policies and regulations regarding procurement are different. So, you know, of course, the federal government follows the federal acquisition regulations. But I'm always having that communication with the different government officials to see how definitely when you're purchasing certain things, not only IT, but just other things in general, how we can help you do that by stretching your dollars, whether it be grant funding or your regular government funding. So with that being said, if there's no more questions, I will go ahead and turn it over to the next presenter.
I wonder if GSA insulates or compensates, you know, with bulk buying, with, you know, the exorbitant cost of shipping and cargo. Is GSA our magic wand in that aspect?
No, not for that one. We don't, oh, sorry. We don't actually hold any like contracts for shipping like Matson. Our shipping contracts that we have are like, you know, the state to state type shipping, but not the large ones. Now, when the CNMI does look at purchasing vehicles, what they've done in the past, GSA does help ship those vehicles via government bill of lading. So there might be a little bit of cost savings there, but for normal like products, no. Yeah.
Nice try. All right. Thank you again, Miss Brandy Untalan. I think you may have families in Tinian, right? Tinian, yes. The Untalan have Schneiders, yes. Okay. And Daryl?
Yep, so we are going to be having a 2-minute raffle while IT is setting up the next presentation. And so please, we are going to be pulling, or I'll be pulling. Or Mr. Charlie, would you like to pull? So the winner will be receiving a 4 terabyte M.2 SSD that is portable and Siphon Snaps that is locally produced. And the winner is Daryl Taggarty. Sorry about that. So the winner is Daryl Taggarty. Round of applause, please. Thank you so much. So we're gonna do our last raffle prize. Would you like to?
Congressman, you pull my card.
All right, so the winner is the same raffle prize, which is a 4 terabyte M.2 SSD that is portable and Siphon Snaps to complement. The winner is Bradley. Oh, I'm gonna butcher your name. Sorry. Ishel. Yes. That's you. Sorry about your last name. I had a hard time, but congratulations. So now we can move on to our next presenter. Our next presenter is Charlie Hermosa. He is the CEO, co-founder of Bella Wings Aviation. He has over 15 years of experience in tech startups and over 25 years of experience in supply chain management. He is a graduate of the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, graduating with a BS in Marine Transportation. He holds a master's degree in Transportation Policy, Operations, and Logistics from George Mason University. Everyone, please welcome Mr. Charlie Hermosa.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can everybody hear me? All right, so I think I'm the last speaker. Is that correct?
We have one more, Stephen Librando.
Oh, yeah, we're both together. So,
Oh, okay.
So,
Please.
Stefan, he is my director of VICE, which is the Virtual Inspection Construction Engineering, and we'll get to that part shortly. So, good afternoon, everybody. As everybody, if you don't know, our company is a full drone service provider, and I'm also a former Marine Corps officer, so the presentation that I'm going to show you has a lot of pictures and videos. We don't usually do well with a lot of writing, so it's going to be very interactive. So, Bella Wings Aviation, we are based out of Guam, and right now, one of the things that we're going through is an evolution as far as the next level of where drone services and technology is really going to go towards. And that's pretty much what we're going to be going through in the presentation. Next slide. So we don't have an agenda, we have a mission, right? Our mission is we want to be able to use drone technology to change the world. And that is exactly the steps that we're taking in this and what we're calling the Blue Continent region, right? Within the Blue Continent, we see a lot of inefficiencies, especially in how people are getting their goods in the outer islands, right? It's very inefficient as far as people getting medicine. Everybody should have the right and access to get deliveries, specifically with things that are needed for everyday life. Next slide. Our vision, it's clear, right? We want to have the ability for everybody to have, or the vision. So it's the ability for everyone to have access to life-saving services. And that's exactly what drones and the drone technology really represents. Next slide. So just to kind of get out of the way, we are the company that did the drone light show for the mini games. This is actually the sexy part of what we do. We take storyboards and we create animations in the air. So we want to be able to continue to promote that as well, because it's an intricate part of a design that's really, it's fun and exciting, and we hope to do more of these shows here in CNMI. Next slide. So what are we trying to promote? We want to be able to create a network of deliveries between islands, intra-island, inter-island, and we want to be able to create a network that allows drones to make these deliveries in multiple places. So this is just one example of what we're looking at, right? Basically, somebody would place an order, the drone delivers, and it fulfills the package. What you're seeing right now, this locker system, is a logistics locker system that's being developed. We have partnered up with a mainland company to have one of these units developed, or they're actually developing the units today. And so you're probably asking, how far out is this? And it's actually here. So next slide. So we actually took this unit down to Palau. So we opened up Bella Wings Aviation Palau about a year ago. And the reason why we did that was because we found Palau to be an area that we can actually utilize the airspace and actually test out the things that were really needed within the island. So as you can see from the locker system, the drone lands on top. It places the package or deliveries or medicine into one of those boxes. You get a ping on your cell phone or any type of device with a text message that says you have a delivery. And with that code, that you are the only one that has that code, can go and scan that and open that locker system. So the end-to-end delivery is closed. One of the things that we've been looking at for this system on Guam has been for the delivery of cannabis. And obviously this is something that can work here as well. But it's not only cannabis, it could be medicine. It could be any type of life-saving, we can move forward and potentially get food one day, but we really wanted to develop this more for medicine type of deliveries for areas that are not easily accessible. So we can place these units throughout the islands. We can place the units in areas where the access to the mail system is not that easy. So when we're looking at drones, obviously everybody kind of sort of thinks that when we look at drones, these are the size of the drones we're looking at, but in actuality, the ones that we're testing out are fixed wing drones that fly for 3.5 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours. and they can fly for 150 miles, 200 miles, 600 miles. This is one of our drones, which is a VTOL. It's a vertical takeoff, so it doesn't need a runway. It vertically takes off. It flies for 3.5 hours. Okay, it has a wingspan of about 8.5 to 9 feet wide, so it's pretty big. So we don't really usually take it out in open. It's more of an open air environment where we test the flight. We don't usually do it, in downtown Tumon. We actually go a little further south where we can actually get more of airspace accessibility. So these are the type of drones that we're looking at. These are the type of drones that we want to use when we're talking about long range type of delivery. These are also the drones that we're testing out for surveillance. Right? So there's a program that if you go on our website, you're not going to see anything in regards to search and rescue and surveillance. Search and rescue, yes. Surveillance, not so much. So those are more on the security end side of the discussions that we have with local government agencies. But these are the type of drones that we are looking at and testing out. Next. Okay, so now we're getting into what we want to be able to provide to the region. And it's the VICE program that we launched about a couple months ago when we officially opened our flight lab on Guam. And it's the virtual inspection and construction engineering. So as you can see, this kind of depicts the sort of what we're trying to do from a 3D modeling. But I am going to turn over real quick to Stefan, who is the director of the VICE program.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stefan Librando. I opened up, or just a little background, I opened up Guam's first virtual reality arcade 2 years ago. Unfortunately, COVID hit and I had to shut down, but now I am the vice director here at Bella Wings. What is VICE? So virtual inspection is donning a VR headset, right? And being able to interact and inspect 3D scans. Where the drones come in is the drones do all the scanning. I have some samples here for you that I will show in a bit here, but just a little background with this drone. This drone has 6 cameras that can see autonomously, or it can fly autonomously and fly in GPS denied environments. So even if I am indoors or I am in a secluded area where GPS is not available, the drone can still fly and do its work. And I'll plug in some examples of some of the things we do. Yes,
And so one of the things that we're trying to work on is being able to work from a 3D environment. Actually, we're really getting into the metaverse world. What we want to be able to create is an environment where we do 3D scans, and instead of you having to climb on the roof, do the cell phone towers, do building inspections, the drones can actually do that for you, and then we can have multiple people jump and teleport into this virtual reality world that we're creating. So you can have multiple people. We could be meeting like this one day, but we're not actually here. And so this is sort of the environment that we're creating. You could be in New York, and we're integrating this way, but we're not here.
All right, so here we go. So this is the construction side of things. So this is a San Vitores Road, or a San Vitores statue located in Tamuning, Guam. If you were to do an inspection, your traditional method would be look at thousands of pictures, which is very boring and time consuming. But with a drone, I can take a 3D scan. Let me just reset here. Here we go. All right, so this took around 11 minutes and captured 266 photos. Through photogrammetry, it took those photos and stitched together this 3D object. Now, this changes the dynamics of inspection and also documentation. And through my scans, I'm able to take some notes and information. It's telling me that this scan is around, or this statue is 12 feet with a square footage of around, what's this here, 700 plus square feet. And another example is, so we actually presented this with GFD, or I'm sorry, GPD, for crime scene recreation and crime scene archiving. This is a mock car crash that was taken with the Skydio drone. It took around 700 shots in around 15 minutes. They were really excited when we showed them this because it is less time for them to close the roads. They can just pop the drone up into the air and the drone will do the scanning autonomously while the officer is doing an interview. Now, this here is 200 acres scanned with a drone. It took 1,985 pictures, stitched it all together, and gave me a 3D representation of this parcel of land that we were able to survey. Now, this is very important for your conceptual planning. If, let's say, I want to put a tower here, or just being able to, sorry, let me just reset here. Being able to figure out what is the terrain of the area, right? We can do so with 3D scanning and with drones.
And then you can also teleport into the world, right? If I wanted to and we wanted to walk this land together, right? And we didn't really want to physically walk it, we'll jump into this virtual world, we'll dong on the headsets, and we'll walk it together. But we're really not walking it. Okay, we're teleporting inside the space that we're creating. So there's a multiple functions. This is one we did yesterday.
Yes, so if for sure everybody knows where this is. We took this yesterday, took around 7 minutes. This here has a ground sampling distance, meaning the distance between the drone and the surface of around 2.2 millimeters. The standard for surveying is around a centimeter or sub-centimeter, but our drone can deliver up to sub-millimeter. With a virtual reality headset, I can teleport anybody into the space and do inspections, or in this case, maybe even tourism.
Yeah, and and if anybody really wants to try it, we can set it up right after this. We can teleport into this world. What you can do with these models is once you're walking, if there's areas that you want to be able to enlarge, make small, flip it, you can hold it in your hand. You can do whatever you want with that model to be able to investigate something that you're looking for. So the crime scene investigation for the vehicles is actually something key that GPD would like to look at, because it's also archiving. So when you have multiple police officers that need to investigate a scene and you don't want anything contaminated, you could actually just go and teleport into this world and you can crime scene investigate. You can take the car, you can enlarge it. If there's a victim on the floor, you can, again, it can capture a lot of still shots stitched together to archive these things. So the one thing that Steph and I we were talking about yesterday is it actually goes back to it has a past, right? Whenever we archive this, a year from now, if there's any type of development that's been made on this lighthouse, we can actually go back and we can see how the evolution of whatever happened has happened. But it's not only looking at the picture. If you want to go back to the past, we can actually teleport, right? You're looking at an environment where there was nothing here at one point, and now you're walking in the past. You were talking about things that were actually a little bit more, things that, a car that you love, right? And we did a 3D rendering 20, 30 years from now. You want to go back and kind of be next to it, you can teleport into that world, right? So this is sort of the mindset that we want to be able to create. And the reason why we're saying this now is because we can actually do it now. We're doing it now. So we got to start thinking that way. We got to really start forward looking at how the next evolution of the 5, 10, 15 years is going to look like. The metaverse, virtual reality, is the world we're going to be living in. Next slide. Oh. Next slide. So this is the action shots that we were doing yesterday afternoon. All right, so again, this is a little bit of when we launched the flight lab a couple of months back. Obviously showing our team there, we were doing an expo as far as the recreation in some of the environments that we just actually showed. So again, so we're forward looking, what else are we doing? So we're actually manufacturing drones on Guam now. We started this about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Last night, we pretty much were 80% done with the first 20 units that had been deemed made on Guam USA drones. These drones are going to be given to the school systems. There was an RFP that was put out. We were awarded the RFP, but instead of going out and purchasing the drones, we decided to make it ourselves. But that was sort of a proof of concept to show that we can do it. Like we actually can do these things here in this region. And when we went down to Pohnpei, that was one of the things that we were talking about with the APIL, is the fact that right now, it's the perfect time to be able to develop these systems within this region and self-sustain ourselves. With everything that we need ourselves, we can make it. There's more to it than that, right? There's education programs that we need to put in place. But the fact of the matter is that we can do it. I think there's a video on the left. Good example. Again, we're documenting all the things that we're doing by the recreating and assembling and manufacturing these drones, the technical aspects of it.
So what they're doing here is they're reprogramming the flight controller.
Next slide. So this one just came in early this morning. They finished up around 10 o'clock. So as you can see, we're getting closer to finishing up the first 20 units. We're almost there. Next slide. So what else can we do with drones? One of the things that we actually went out and did was there was a group of climbers who wanted to do something good for the island. They rappelled down the cliff line and decided to pick up the trash. You would be, it's pretty impressive in a negative way to see how much, unfortunately, it had to do a lot with the wind and garbage flying around. But in the cliff line, we found there was a lot of garbage, but it was really hard to get it out. So one of the things we said, hey, listen, we have drones, we have heavy lift drones. Why don't we use them to get the garbage out? So here's just another quick clip. And we did that all day long. Wow. All day long. Just transferring, right? Those things were about between 9 to 10 pounds. They can lift about between 12 to 15 pounds. And that was a useful way to do it, right? So many applications from how we can use the drones. But at the end of the day, one of the things that we have learned is none of the programs that we have are going to work unless we start an education process. And it's got to start at the grammar school, high school, tech, and even college level. We just finished the program with the University of Guam. We had 14 students train with us to get certified as FAA pilots, or 107 pilots. One dropped out, unfortunately, due to personal reasons, but we had 13 that finished the program and 13 that passed the FAA licensing exam. So that was a great, great number. Now within that group, there was another 30-40% that wanted to continue and pursue their careers in the drone industry. So we took on 3 of the interns. They're interning with us. And eventually what we want to do is create that ecosystem where whether it's a tech, whether it's high school, whether it's college, we'll train you, or there's a technical aspect created within a community college or university or even a high school, like a trade school. And once you finish that program, whether it's whether it has to do with electrical, you want to build the drones, whether it's engineers, you want to create the software, whether you just want to be pilots and just get killer shots, filming and everything else. Once you finish that program, we'll hire you. We'll hire you, right? You saw the different aspects. We had the sexy part of the business, which is doing the drone light show and it's putting on a concert, creating and manufacturing drones, search and rescue, surveillance programs, the 3D scanning device program, which we think is going to really take everything to the next level when it comes to really utilizing virtual reality. But at the end of the day, nothing can be done without the education process being in place. So that's something that we want to discuss. We want to go back down to the FSM because we can do it in the FSM. We can do it in the CNMI. And, we've been talking, so we're in the process of opening up an office here in Saipan so that we can continue and develop these programs within the island and the CNMI, because there's a lot of value to it, and I think hopefully you'll be able to see exactly what we're talking about. So again, thank you so much. If you do have any questions, or if you really do want to kind of experience this virtual reality world and you want to teleport to Dubai or anywhere like in Brazil, we can send you off today if you want to go visit it, okay? So just pack your bags and then just get ready to fly away. So, Stefan, any last words?
Yes, I'm going to be setting up VR somewhere if anybody's down to try and dome my and see my 3D scans. And if you have any questions. Yes.
Yes. So the drones that are being developed right now are STEM drones. So the students are going to have it, but they're also going to have the ability to understand the physical aspects of what it takes to be able to get one up the air. We're in discussions right now with Guam Community College on developing a program that's STEM-based. So basically, it's almost like a trade school where we're going to show you how to put these drones together. You're going to build one. If it flies, great, it's yours. If it doesn't, that's your fault, but that's basically what we're going to start doing. So, yeah, no, we want to start one here as well. And it's really simple, and that's the thing that we can do that like tomorrow. Like, let's do it. Exactly. That's what I'm all about. Like, that's the one thing. We don't wait. Like, if somebody approaches us and said, let's do something, we're there. You tell me where I need to be, and we're going to be right there. Anytime. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we do. Stefan is one that we're actually on the videography side. One of the things that we're seeing is a lot of the cinematic companies are turning to drones for these amazing shots. Stefan, I don't know if you talk about the FPV. So FPV is we have drones that are about this small that we've shown GPD, because technically at one day, instead of going into a house that you don't really know from a law enforcement standpoint, you can throw that in there and have eyes on first. And that can give you at least a couple of seconds of lead time or minutes, but also.
Yeah, so my background too with drones is FPV. I'm a avid FPV hobbyist and racing pilot. We have these drones that are the size of, let's say, the propeller maybe around 240 millimeters, or maybe even smaller than that. It can even carry a GoPro if needed, and it flies the same way as if you were to fly a bigger 7-inch, 8-inch drone. We actually recommend that you start off with these smaller drones because some of them have prop guards that are way safer. I fly it around my 1-year-old kid and I film him. It's really fun because he's getting really used to the drone. He wants to grab the drone. So yes, yeah, we have very, very small drones that are not even toys, not even close to being toys.
Yeah, and they fly underneath the table. I mean, very close environments. Yeah.
Sure. There are drones that are tethered because caves do have difficulties. We do still fly line of sight, so sometimes radio waves cannot go inside the caves, but there are drones that are tethered with a cage system, so it'll just bounce around the cave. Yes, yeah. Yes, sir.
$1 billion%. 1 billion%. You tell me when you want to do it, we'll be here. That's it. We'll be here tomorrow if you want. So, and that's one of the things we want to be able to create. We want to be able to get more because we see the industry growing, and we want to be able to continue to provide these services throughout the entire region. But we want to grassroot it. We want to get folks trained in site plan, we want to get folks trained in FSM, but it's all grassrooted, all internal to what we're doing here. Yep, there's definitely so one of the things that we've done from a business perspective is we have I would probably say 90% walk away from any GI type equipment. So we're dealing with North American or US made. So the larger drone here is out of Canada with a company called Dragonfly, and the smaller one, the Skydio, is a California-based company. Obviously, we're making our own. The issue with us is as we kind of continue get a better baseline on how these things really work, the circuit boards and all that still has a touch and feel coming out of China or Taiwan. But those are some of the things that we're looking at and kind of building ourselves. I will tell you, we are talking, and you see the big picture of what we're trying to create here. We are talking to two companies that we're trying to invite, one out of Turkey, one out of Canada, to be able to set up shop here in this region. Could be Guam, could be Saipan, could be Palau, FSM, but what we want to do is be able to create an environment where we will, again, self-sustain ourselves with the drones that we need for our region, because off-the-shelf drones that we buy, it's like the cars that we get, they meet 4 out of the 6 things that could safely drive here, but the weather, the salt, all these aspects, right? Drones, most of them are not waterproof, right? So, and then, but we get rain and we don't even know. Like, we could be like, oh, it's sunny. You look down, you look up, and there's a big cloud. It starts raining, and you're like, and you can't fly. So, one of the things that we want to be able to create is after we make these first 20, we want to be able to design a Micronesia type drone that fits the environment that we are accustomed to. Pipeline.
Right. Okay, Paul.
So our maps are actually better than Google Maps because if you think about it, Google Maps is in space, while our drones can fly up to 70 feet, maybe even some can even fly up to 7 feet. It'll take forever, but our maps are way more detailed. To work with Google, that'll be awesome, but at the moment, all our maps are just based for local usage.
So one of the things that we want to do is we want to be able to continue to promote the environment, because I think that one of the things that the reason why we use a lot of videos and pictures is because you have to see it. You have to see it to believe it, to kind of understand the dynamics of what the resolution really is when we fly with drones versus anything else that you're using. Well, thank you very much, everybody. And
Right
if
on.
anybody wants to, we'll set it up. And
I thank you. Si Sus Masip natanapagpaki manatungota ginin ibwa, which is the business of Bella Wings Aviation, and I was going to say Kings Point, right? My 2 oldest sons are in New London. Yeah, they're next door. Yeah, so. And they enjoy the campus for the rifle pistol competitions. Congratulations, right on. So I'm excited about what opportunities ahead. Maybe there's something else that you're trend setting on forward as well. So congratulations on that. We are approaching the closing of today's auspicious event. But before we do, we're going to, how do you say, we're going to invite one of our visitors to just give some brief parting words. And then we will present the findings of the Q&A from the activities this morning and afternoon, part of the afternoon, and then the final message by our Chief Information Officer, Mr. Audan, and then of course, retirement of colors. And I will introduce the next speaker. And he was born and raised on Pollap Island in Chuuk State, Federated States of Micronesia. He was a member of the Paramount Chief Clan on Pollap Island. He currently serves as the 16th Chuuk State Legislature, House of Representatives since 2013. He is the chairman of the most important committee, the Appropriations, the Standing Committee on Ways and Means. He's the member of the Health and Welfare Committee. He's also a board of director for the Association of Pacific Islands Legislature, APIL, representing the state of Chuuk since 2013 to date. He is, like, I'm thankful also that you appreciate the spiritual side of us, and he's an active member of the Roman Catholic in the Archdiocese of Guam and the Diocese of the Caroline Islands. I miss Bishop Amanto. We used to travel together to Fiji for CPAC for about almost a decade. And of course, he's married and have 7 children and 2 grandchildren and counting, right? And in his words, his mantra is leadership is an opportunity to serve. To share with us some remarks on the region's, hopefully, perspective on forward and the promise and pledge for better cooperation, bilateral cooperation. Please get your hands together for the Honorable Andrew A. May.
Thank you so much, MC. Before I proceed, I'd like to take this opportunity to pay my own respect to the leadership of this beautiful island, to all fellow participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As mentioned in my biography, that I came from the state of Chuuk. I recently was in Pohnpei, attending the Association of Pacific Island Legislature General Assembly, and we elected our new officers, and Senator Fini Sablan is our new elected Vice President. And I thank the delegation of Saipan CNMI who were attending the PIL for inviting us to attend this very important symposium. I am heading to Guam for meetings, and I take this opportunity that I will come here to learn this very important events. We have very important people here in Saipan, CNMI, and Guam. And I think that's why it's really fit for us, the leaders of the FSM, to be part of this working group, since we have more people of our islands that are residing here. I myself, I am also residents of Guam for more than 20 years. And I am still there, even though I am one of the representatives in Chuuk, but my family remains in Guam. I thank you all, Thank you for all that you have presented. I learned so much, and I will bring everything that I have to share with my fellow leaders in Chu. Thank you so much.
Kinisok Tapur, Congressman May, and on behalf of the Association of Commonwealth, ACH at Tsuk, CNMI Association, Riananim, and Hafaday, Papuan Katiu Murinong Nokatafon Representative Andrew May. Si Masi, Kilisorem. Okay, and now I will present Mr. Jesse Boom Atalik to present us with the findings. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. So the first question that we had for the questionnaire was, how can we expand our broadband with minimal cost? There are various answers. Most of them were from table 2, 4, 5, 11, 13, 14, and 15. From all the answers that I saw, a lot of them centered around how the CNMI government can help. The instruction I got was to pick one and go with it, right? But seeing as how this is the Marianas working group, I went through the answers and tried to find a commonality between all of them. How all the answers can pretty much sum up how we can all work together. So from going from that, essentially working with federal partners to find programs to save on the procurement of IT and existing solutions and contracts. And also having the government improve and regulate broadband providers to be more digitally equitable. Now that's interesting because I'm not sure if a lot of you are aware, but OIT was able to negotiate with Docomo to provide a government rate. With IT&E, it's still continuing in the talks, but we're able to do that so that we can get fairness across the board for the government agencies, which is a big win for us. Another one is to reinforce infrastructure. So one of the big problems we hear from different government agencies and residential customers as well is that whenever there's inclement weather, service drops. You know, be it if it's over fiber or if it is with broadband or DSL. Doesn't matter. We just keep hearing things that service is not sufficient. I think that from all the responses here, that is the most common theme. Reinforcing infrastructure. We need to ensure that our lines and our fiber is strengthened across. So that way our customers, businesses, it's just strengthened as a whole. The next question was, is your current internet capability sufficient for your needs? So this one was good because out of the 6 answers, 5 of them were no, plain and simple, right? Only one of them, table 13, said yes. Now, I think we can expand on that a bit more. So the question when it says capability, that's such a broad term, right? So for residential speed, is your current internet sufficient? I would say yes for the people of the island. Residential fiber, it's too expensive. It's not realistic for the average household. But overall stability and reliability. There's too many issues currently due to inclement weather again. However, this can be due to poor infrastructure maintenance, which the ISPs seem to be reactive instead of proactive in regards to the lines. This may be due to manpower or other internal issues. But the general consensus here is that no, it's not. And that's something that we as a community need to get better at. Last one. This will be a surprise for me as well. Last question.
And that is everything. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good job, Mr. Boom Atilik from the Office of OIT. We are just really ecstatic and excited and just thankful that, OIT, when it was established by executive order through directive, gubernatorial directive, there was a vision. And I hope, did all of you get the chance to look at the proclamation at the entrance? I think it really is a collective vision of what we want to see the Northern Marianas, as I'm sure our brethren in Guam, FSM, Palau, the Marshalls, and Kiribati on for Northern Micronesia. So thank you, and these are part and parcel to our overall continuous relentless efforts to diagnose, assess, create a roadmap, and then of course, as the governor courteously, conscientiously reminded us, let's move because the work begins after we depart in our respective canoes. And ladies and gentlemen, for our closing remarks, and then after that, we'll retire the colors. Please get our hands together to the Chief Information Officer for the Northern Marianas under the Office of Information Technology, Department of Finance, Mr. Clifford Hokug Audan.
Right on. Well said, John. Thank you for that. I'd like to thank again the people that planned the event here, Marianas Working Group, along with OIT and all of our partners, the representatives over at Northern Marianas College. Thank you again for taking the time out, making the effort to stream this event live. And then for all of our guest speakers, those of you that have come far away, and near, I appreciate your time and your ability to deliver on the content that we were trying to give to our attendees. And thank you again, John, for being the MC. Thank you, Daryl, for being the moderator. And again, I appreciate our federal partnership with FEMA, Brian Beck, our Chief Technology Officer, Frank Lujan, and then our delegates that were able to be present in the beginning of the event. And again, everyone here that signed up and attended this event, I appreciate your time and effort. I hope that you guys were able to ingest the content and take that back with you. I know there's going to be more efforts or more joint efforts on our end to work with you as we deliver on some of the the milestones that we're trying to execute here today. So thank you everyone for coming. And for tonight, there's a happy hour event at the Lighthouse from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I invite every one of you here today to come join us and have a drink with us, interact, socialize with some of the guests that are here, as well as our vendors. I believe there's a performance tonight as well. So please join us. Enjoy the night, and then go on home after that. So thank you everyone for coming, and I appreciate it. To the next event, thank you.
Thank you. Zeus Masi, again on behalf of Governor Torres, the Office of Information Technology, the Marianas Working Group representing our two governments in Guam, and the Sangkatan na Island Marianas, Gani, Luta, Tinian, and Saipan. It's been a pleasure. I hope it was insightful for me as it was for you. And please network. Hopefully, we'll be surprised with a simple drone show tonight at the Lighthouse. What a beautiful backdrop against the Pacific Sea and the Philippine Sea. Okay, so thank you very much. Let's give everybody a round of applause. And if you want to sell that 4 terabyte, check me later. I'm your friend, and I smile a lot. So thank you. God bless. Stay safe. Go and just check into your rooms or warm up your cars, and let's meet up at the Lighthouse. For those who have not been up there, it's a truly, it's a $1 billion view up there. It's with the backdrop of the magical sunset and the oceans, treating it as reminding us of the beauty of our simple, humble paradise. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you, Daryl. Good job. High five. Yeah. May we get a group shot with the speakers up in the front, please? Sa Mizu fan nalalalu, tafan maltrato. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, I was excited. I was thinking of the mimosa. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Caps off. And with courtesy, reverence, and respect, may we please go back, summon the Marianas High School Junior ROTC program officers, esteemed leaders in their own right and emerging leaders for the future, to retire the colors. Color guards, please. Ladies and gentlemen, the Marianas High School Junior ROTC program, together with our other high schools in the Northern Marianas, they are truly world champions and award-winning ROTC programs. Si Zeus Masi again. Adahiyam zumona gi kareran mizo, sa ilinala na ipiran na safu, sinya bentimis muizon mizo. Take care. See you guys soon.